Hello everyone, you're watching the channel Stories of Our Life. Friends, make yourselves comfortable. I wish you to truly enjoy listening to this life story.
The guests were eating, drinking, and having a good time. Rose was happy, the celebration was a success. It was her birthday and wedding anniversary. However, Clinton had disappeared somewhere. Maybe he wasn't feeling well? Who knows? He was also fully enjoying himself today, drinking a lot, munching on snacks, dancing, keeping up with the young crowd. As she walked through the apartment, Rose noticed the light on in the bathroom. She was about to open the door when she heard Clinton's anxious voice. "Darling, how do you expect me to do this? I can't just drop everything and come to you right now. It would be, at the very least, strange. If it were just casual get-togethers. But this, my wife's birthday and our wedding anniversary. Wait until tomorrow. And tomorrow, I'll be all yours." Clinton fell silent, apparently listening to the response from the person on the other end of the phone. Then he spoke again, this time with a calmer voice. "My dear and beloved. Anything you want. And your gift will be much better than what I got my wife. And all night, I'll be only with you. At your complete disposal." Rose realized she needed to leave before her husband noticed her, or have a meltdown, or start a huge scandal and then leave. No. That wouldn't do. There were people having fun in the house, her relatives and friends. She wouldn't spoil their celebration. While she pondered her next steps, Clinton emerged from the bathroom. By her expression, he knew she had heard him. "How long have you been standing there?" he asked calmly. "Long enough," Rose replied in the same tone and went back to the guests. Her husband followed her. Pretending that nothing had happened, Rose continued to enjoy the party with the guests. Once the last guest left, Rose was finally able to wipe the happy smile off her face. She changed her clothes, then began clearing the table. Clinton silently helped her, as usual, as he had done throughout their 20 years of married life. When the table was cleared and Rose started washing the dishes, Clinton brought a bottle of cognac and a glass to the kitchen. "Have you made a decision?" he broke the silence. "Yes," his wife replied tersely. Clinton poured himself a drink, gazed into the glass as if trying to see something in it, and then downed it in one gulp. "I understand that you're hurt, upset, and this is a blow for you. But understand me too, we've been together for 20 years. I still love and respect you, but the passion we had in the early years of our marriage is gone. We've grown accustomed to each other. That's why I'm asking you not to rush into a hasty decision, but to think it through carefully. So what if I had a little fling? It's normal for a man my age. I'm not going to leave you for that. We're still a family and we'll be together until the end." Clinton poured himself another glass. Rose finished washing the dishes, dried her hands, and turned to her husband. "Well then, listen to me now. I'm not hurt or upset, I'm simply amazed by your audacity and cowardice. If, as you say, you love and respect me, you would have talked to me first before going to another woman. No, not ask for permission, just talk. Explain. We've been together for 20 years and, as you said, we've grown accustomed to each other. So why not discuss your newfound thoughts on adultery with age? But you chose to have an affair behind my back, justifying it by claiming I'm no longer desirable because I'm not young anymore and that all men your age do the same. And women, with a smile, endure it. Well, you miscalculated greatly by believing that. So, I have two options for you, either you move in with your mistress, or we sell the apartment and divide the money according to the law." "Rose, don't talk nonsense. I'm not going anywhere. And we're not selling anything. You'll calm down, come to your senses, and everything will be fine." Clinton stood up and tried to embrace his wife, but she pushed him away and left the room. "If you don't tell me which of the two options you choose tomorrow, I'll take care of selling the apartment." Rose locked herself in the bedroom, and Clinton had no choice but to sleep in another room. It was the first time in 20 years that he slept alone. The absence of a woman's body next to him made him uncomfortable. Clinton remembered how he and Rose, just married, rented a small room with minimal furniture, an old creaky sofa, an antique wardrobe, and a chair. But they were happy. Happy that they could finally sleep together without fearing strict parents. That all nights now belonged to them and their love. Later, this room was replaced by a 2-bedroom apartment, and a few years later, they bought the current one. A large 5-room apartment with a huge balcony that evoked envy among friends and admiration from relatives. Rose ran around the rooms with enthusiasm, spreading her arms wide and expressing her joy loudly. Clinton was also incredibly happy, but he restrained himself from showing such emotional outbursts. His wife eagerly set about making their home. Over time, new furniture and beautiful trinkets appeared, everything that indicated the presence of a woman in the house. And now, this family nest was under threat. Clinton didn't want to sell it. It was a symbol of their family life, happy and loving. Their children grew up here. They come here for holidays and vacations. Why is Rose so stubborn? If she hadn't overheard his conversation with Sally, she wouldn't have known about his affairs, just as she hadn't known before. It all started a couple of years ago when Clinton got a new secretary. At first, he didn't pay her much attention, but Chloe, that's what she was called, was persistent in seducing her boss. And within a couple of weeks, they ended up in bed together. It was the first time in many years that Clinton had sex with someone other than his wife. And he enjoyed it. The thrill of something new, the desire to explore uncharted territory, he dove headfirst into this excitement. Over time, Chloe lost her appeal. He wanted something fresh, so Clinton switched to a new young manager in his firm. Then the girls changed with such speed that Clinton couldn't remember their names. But he always left behind a good impression in the form of expensive and generous gifts. The latest one, Sally, intrigued him somehow. They had been seeing each other for over 3 months, and he hadn't thought about breaking up with her yet. Rose couldn't sleep either. Her husband's betrayal deeply hurt her, even more than she had thought. She had suspected that he might be unfaithful, but she pushed those thoughts away. She hoped that his flirting with young employees or acquaintances wouldn't escalate. And now, this overheard phone conversation shattered all her hopes of her husband's fidelity. His affairs had gone too far. She remembered how they had met, and tears welled up in her eyes. Rose was 15 when she first saw Clinton. He had just returned from the army and was celebrating his homecoming with friends at one of the city cafes. Rose and her friends also came there to celebrate one of their birthdays. Gradually, the two groups of boys and girls began exchanging glances and winks, and after some time, they merged into one cheerful company. Throughout the evening, Clinton kept looking at Rose with a happy smile, and then he invited her to a slow dance. Blushing and feeling nervous, Rose agreed. She couldn't utter a word due to excitement. Sensing her shyness, Clinton smiled playfully. When it was time to go home, the young man offered to see her off. At the entrance, Clinton leaned in to kiss the girl, but he suddenly changed his mind and asked, "How old are you, princess?" 15, Rose whispered, blushing even more. Clinton chuckled and lightly patted her shoulder. "I don't get involved with minors, Rose. Even with such cute ones," he said cheerfully and bid her farewell. Rose rushed into the entrance. She felt embarrassed and hurt. Embarrassed that she had liked this guy and showed it to him. Hurt that he ignored her obvious fondness. Since then, whenever she met Clinton, she held her head high and pretended not to notice him. Clinton smirked and always shouted, "Hey, little princess." "Hello." When Rose first saw him with another girl, she cried all night and started avoiding him. To drown her sorrow, she threw herself into her studies, which helped her easily get into university after graduating from school. The new atmosphere, new friends, and the new student life allowed her to temporarily forget about her first love. The day of the freshman was approaching. Rose and her friends were eagerly preparing for it, raiding clothing stores. As she entered the large hall of the main university building, the first person she saw was Clinton. He noticed her too and playfully winked. Rose tried to hide from him in the crowd. What is he doing here? She nervously thought. Probably accompanying his latest crush, she concluded, thinking about it for a moment and getting even more annoyed. Throughout the ceremony, Rose still thought about him and searched for him with her eyes, scolding herself for doing so. But when the party started, thoughts of Clinton flew out of her mind. Rose fully immersed herself in the fun. Care to dance? She heard a voice behind her, and her heart skipped a beat. Trying to remain composed, Rose turned to the young man. Have you reconsidered your views on hanging out with minors? Clinton grinned and, taking Rose by the waist, swept her into the midst of the dancing crowd. It's been 2.5 years. I think you've grown up enough to hang out with me now. The young man's eyes sparkled mischievously. Oh, you, the audacity of his words left her speechless. Clinton laughed. Come on, don't be mad. Back then, you were a 15-year-old teenager, and I was already an adult, a 20-year-old guy. Now you've grown into a beautiful girl, someone worth courting. How did you end up here? She changed the subject to gather herself after his words. I'm studying here. I enrolled right after the army. Majoring in physics and mathematics. And you? I'm starting this year. Also majoring in physics and mathematics. That evening, as Clinton escorted Rose to the entrance, without hesitation, he kissed her. Old feelings burst through the barrier where they had been carefully concealed, flooding out and carrying the girl away into the realm of love. They got married on Rose's 19th birthday. What a wonderful birthday gift you've given me, Rose said on their first wedding night. Well, I can give you this gift multiple times a day. Clinton chuckled. You've been what I needed since the moment I saw you. And I promise that I'll always love and take care of you. We're together for a lifetime now. I won't give you to anyone else. And Clinton didn't go to see Sally. Instead, he rented an apartment not far from his ex-wife, Rose. Their children were supposed to visit on Friday. How would they react to their parents' separation? They wanted to celebrate Rose's birthday and their wedding anniversary once more, but this time in a quiet family circle. Their daughter was in her second year at university, and their son had left school after the 9th grade to attend college. The parents rented an apartment for them, and they were confident that everything was fine. Their daughter would make sure her brother was fed, and their son would pick her up from the university if her classes ended late. On Thursday evening, Clinton dialed Rose's number. She took a long time to answer the phone. Finally, her voice came through the receiver, and suddenly, Clinton keenly felt his loneliness without his wife. He missed her terribly. Throughout the week, he pretended that this situation didn't affect him much, that he would calmly wait for Rose to think things through and forgive him. Thousands of families live like that, where the husband finds solace on the side, and the wife just accepts it to avoid disrupting the established family life. The husband remains the exemplary family man, taking care of his wife and children, bringing home the paycheck, and taking them on vacation once a year. Hello, I'm listening. Rose's voice was calm, unlike the music playing in the background. Hi. Can you lower the music? We need to discuss tomorrow evening, Clinton started the conversation. Hello? No, I can't lower the music, I'm in a restaurant. And I don't have the time or desire to discuss anything right now. If it's really urgent, let's talk tomorrow morning. Before Clinton could reply, she hung up. He looked at the phone with bewilderment. What restaurant? What was she doing there? Rose only visited restaurants with him. He dialed her number again. Rose? What are you doing in a restaurant? Clinton didn't hide his annoyance. I'm relaxing. His wife replied calmly. What do you mean, relaxing? Clinton started getting upset. What should a relaxing mean? Rose was surprised. I was invited, I agreed. I am a free woman after all, I have the right. She hung up again. Who invited you? Clinton asked, but Rose challenged him once more. He dialed her number again. The subscriber you are trying to reach is not responding or is temporarily unavailable. A detached metallic voice answered him. Clinton helplessly clenched his fists. Then he picked up the phone and dialed again. Kitty, I'm upset with you. You promised to come to me on Sunday. I'll come now. Get ready. Clinton yelled abruptly and hung up the phone. Surprised, Sally looked at the receiver. But not for long, she quickly started getting dressed. Clinton. What's wrong with you? We've been to 6 restaurants already, and you can't make up your mind. Sally said in a whining voice. Let's just stop. I'm hungry. In a moment. We need to find a decent place. Clinton frantically tried to think of where his wife could have gone. Unable to come up with anything, he settled on the 7th restaurant. Sally chatted non-stop, but Clinton wasn't listening. He couldn't believe that Rose, his Rose, went somewhere without him. You forgot about me so quickly. That means I wasn't really needed before. And you acted like you were hurt. Clinton thought angrily. Kitty. What's wrong with you? You're so absent-minded. Sally pouted her lips. I left my wife. Clinton replied, immediately regretting it, as Sally's eyes lit up with joy. Really? Now I understand why you took so long to choose a restaurant. You wanted to celebrate it in style. Don't worry. I'll make up for all the restaurant's shortcomings for you. Sally slyly stroked his hand and ran her foot up his leg under the table. You'll move in with me, won't you? You live too far from my office. Clinton started evading such a prospect. Let's find a place closer to your office. Sally didn't give up. All right, I'll take care of that. Tomorrow. And now, let's celebrate. Clinton forced a smile and raised his glass. He needed a boost to avoid running away from Sally right now. Clinton didn't wait until morning to leave Sally. After going through the entire program with her, he prepared to go home. You're leaving? Sally was surprised. But it's still too early. I'm sorry. I have an important meeting today, I need to look fresh and lively, and you're draining me like a lemon, he said. So, I'll wait for you tonight? The girl persisted. No. The kids are coming today, I need to meet them, talk with them. Let's talk on the weekend. Without waiting for Sally to come up with a response, Clinton left her apartment. Back in his rented apartment, he took a shower, looked at the clock, it was only 2 in the morning. Setting the alarm for 8 in the morning, Clinton went to bed. Of course, he didn't have any meeting scheduled for today, he didn't need to rush to work to prepare for it. With whom did Rose go to the restaurant? And did her entertainment end with just a restaurant visit? In Clinton's mind, questions about his wife's activities kept arising, preventing him from falling asleep. For the first time in her life, Rose suffered from a hangover. She had never gotten so drunk before. But here. Her anger at her husband, the desire to distract herself, and ideally forget it all, like a terrible dream, had taken their toll. Rose. You're such a smart and beautiful woman. Her friend Sharon reassured her. We'll find you another great guy. Rose nodded in agreement and downed another glass. She missed the moment when Sharon managed to meet 2 men who came to the restaurant just to have dinner and discuss business. And now, the 4 of them were having a great time together. The men turned out to be polite and gallant. One of them, Elliot, couldn't take his eyes off Rose. She was flattered. When he asked her to dance, she happily agreed. Rose, I'm enchanted. Her partner whispered in her ear. Rose didn't say anything, just smiled mysteriously. I apologize for being forward, but such a charming lady must have a man. You're not available, are you? Not anymore. Rose replied. I'm getting divorced. Really? Who dared to lose such a woman? He's probably a fool. Rose didn't go into details. After her words, Elliot became even more actively attentive to her. Rose couldn't remember how she got home, but she woke up alone in her bed, fully dressed. Even her shoes were still on. Struggling to get out of bed, Rose walked into the bathroom, undressing on the way, leaving a trail of clothes behind her. The hot shower brought her to her senses a little. She walked into the kitchen, collecting her clothes on the way and putting them back in their places, then made herself some coffee. Taking a big sip, she called Sharon. By Sharon's voice, it was evident that she was feeling no better than Rose. Sharon. How did I get home? Do you remember? Rose asked. Oh, of course. Sharon laughed. It's impossible to forget. You stood up from the table, bowed to our cavaliers, and said, "Thank you. Everything was splendid, but I'm leaving. Elliot wanted to accompany you, and you told him, 'I'm sorry, dear, but I want to take a break from men for a few years. And from their presence in my life.' You asked the waiter to call a taxi for you and left." OMG. Rose could only utter. "Don't worry. I gave Elliot your number." Sharon replied. Sharon. Why would you do that? Rose asked. Sharon disconnected, and Rose pondered. Yesterday, Clinton called and wanted to talk about something. He even seemed upset that she was having fun at the restaurant. The phone rang. Rose winced, the sound seemed very loud and unpleasant to her. The screen displayed Clinton. Hello? Rose. The kids are coming today, we need to meet and discuss everything. Can't we do it over the phone? No. It's not a phone conversation. I'll come around 2 p.m. No need. Let's meet on neutral territory. Rose. Why are you acting like a child? Either on neutral territory, or let's say, goodbye, Rose said firmly. She was afraid that if Clinton came home, he would try to get close to her, and she wouldn't be able to resist. Fine. Then come to our cafe, Clinton grumbled angrily and hung up. Rose took a long time choosing what to wear. She wanted to look in a way that would make Clinton realize what kind of woman he had lost. She settled on a new dress she had bought recently, one that Clinton hadn't seen yet. It was sleek and accentuated her figure. The green color of the dress matched her eyes of the same color. Adding golden shoes and a light beige coat, Rose applied makeup and casually pinned her hair with a golden clip. Admiring her reflection in new lingerie, Rose started putting on the chosen outfit. Clinton nervously glanced at the clock. Even though there were still 5 minutes before the coveted 2 o'clock, he was already getting anxious. Who was she with at the restaurant yesterday? Did she come home alone? Thousands of questions swirled in his head, tormenting him. Exactly at 2 o'clock, the cafe door opened, and Rose entered. The administrator led her to Clinton's table. As she approached, he involuntarily admired his wife. She was just as slender as the day they met. Still beautiful and innocent. What had he done? Clinton jumped up to help his wife sit down. Would you like something to eat? He asked with utmost care. No, thank you. Just coffee, Rose addressed the approaching waiter. So, what did you want to talk about? She looked at Clinton. There was no usual warmth or love in her gaze, just polite interest. Clinton winced at this look. He felt so scared and lonely, as if he had nothing and no one left in this life. If only he knew what it cost Rose to look at him like that. She did her best to appear indifferent, but inside, everything trembled, and her heart was ready to leap and rush to her husband, saying, "Don't leave me. Please. I don't want to inform the kids about our separation just yet," said Clinton. Why? Rose took a sip of coffee. Well, they shouldn't know yet. They might perceive it all wrong and express their protest not too kindly. How will they return to their studies in such a mood? Maybe we should wait until the holidays? So you want our kids to think everything is fine for 3 months? Rose asked. Well, yes. Why worry them prematurely? They won't be able to process this information over the weekend and will leave troubled. The school year has just started, they might just neglect their studies out of spite for us. Okay. Rose agreed after thinking for a moment. Maybe you're right. Then I'll pick them up right after work, and you prepare a celebratory dinner as if nothing happened. Rose nodded, remembering what she had in the fridge and what she needed to get from the store. As if reading her thoughts, Clinton said, I'll take care of wine, fruits, and a cake. Perhaps some ice cream too? Rose waved her hand and stood up, preparing to leave. Clinton also stood up and, tossing a few bills on the table, caught up with his wife. He lightly embraced her waist and leaned towards her ear, whispering, You look beautiful today. I always look beautiful. Rose retorted coldly and shrugged her shoulders, indicating that she didn't appreciate his hand on her waist. As soon as Rose left the cafe, her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar to her, but thinking it might be work-related, she answered the call. Rose. I'm glad I got through to you. Do you remember me? I'm Elliot. We had such a good time together yesterday. I couldn't sleep all night, I was thinking about you. Of course, I remember you, Elliot. Rose noticed from the corner of her eye that Clinton was eavesdropping on her conversation. Great. How about repeating it? Just the two of us, you and me? Choose any restaurant. Elliot sounded enthusiastic. With pleasure. Rose exclaimed as loudly and cheerfully as possible. She saw Clinton's face turn red as he sat in his car. Well, now you know how it feels to be in my shoes? Rose thought triumphantly but said aloud, I'm just busy for the next few days. Let's plan for Tuesday. All right. That's a pity, of course. I was hoping for a sooner meeting. But for you, I can wait until Tuesday. Elliot laughed. Great. Rose hung up. As she strolled through the supermarket, Rose hummed softly. She was delighted with Clinton's reaction to Elliot's call. Even his gaze when she entered the cafe spoke louder than any words. He looked at her as he did on the day he saw her in her wedding dress. His gaze was full of love and desire. But today, there was a flicker of regret in it. In the evening, Clinton brought the cheerful children. As if nothing had happened, he kissed Rose. His kiss was longer than usual, and he would have continued if she hadn't gently pushed him away. Clinton, the kids are back. Let's wash our hands and sit at the table. Throughout the dinner, Clinton joked and tried to touch Rose at every opportunity. She smiled in response but tried not to react to his touches. She was afraid. Afraid of herself, that she might stoop so low as to forgive him and throw herself into his embrace. When they entered the bedroom, Rose wiped the smile off her face and said indifferently, You're sleeping on the couch. But why? Clinton asked. Because I don't want to sleep with a man who betrayed me and didn't hesitate to get into bed with another woman. Did you think I would let you into my bed? Unlike you, I don't just let anyone in, she said. Oh, really? Clinton got angry. And what about Elliot? Are you saying you didn't sleep with him? Rose slapped him hard across the face. Bastard. Not only did you soil yourself in this dirt, but now you also want to accuse me of it. The noise brought the children running. What happened? Their daughter asked anxiously. Nothing. Rose erupted. Just your daddy decided that mommy is too old, unlike him. That he's a real man. That he's entitled to be polygamous. Dad. Is that true? Their son turned to his father, his eyes narrowing with anger. Are you cheating on Mom? Well, Kevin, you should understand me as a man to a man. Clinton tried to appease his son. Why on earth would I do that? Kevin clenched his fists. You brought this filth into our home and think it's normal? You really are a bastard. The daughter stood there and said nothing. It was evident that she was on her mother's side, but she also felt sorry for her father. Kevin, however, was not calming down. Mom. Why didn't you kick him out? Kevin. Honestly, we broke up. We just decided not to tell you anything for now. You thought we were still too young and it would be a shock for us? Well, judging by your reaction, it seems to be true. I thought you had accepted it. That's why I'm angry. But since it's like this, Kevin turned to his father, you can go to your mistress. How dare you speak to your father like that? Clinton got angry. Like to a traitor. Leave. We don't need your filth spreading here. Dad, it's probably best for you to leave, Emily, their daughter, intervened in the conversation. She was afraid that Kevin would attack his father. All right, Clinton said in a conciliatory tone, we better calm down, so I'll leave. But I hope we can still meet someday and talk. Rose and the kids waited silently until he left. Why did you do that? He's still your father. Mom, because of his affairs, you suffer too. And we don't want you to suffer. Emily hugged her mother. Let's go have a drink. I saw that there's still some champagne left. Let's go. Rose waved her hand and discreetly wiped away a tear. Clinton stood on the street, looking at the windows of his apartment. All his plans to spend the weekend with Rose and convince her to forgive him and live together had collapsed. Could she really destroy everything like this because of his little weakness? Of course, accusing her of some connection with Elliot was wrong. His Rose would never look at another man, let alone sleep with him. She was too decent for that. But I, it seems, am indecent? No. I am a man. A man cannot be with one woman all the time. Maybe. Or can he? What was wrong with Rose? Nothing. She was a good homemaker, a mother, and a lover. Clinton thought that his Rose would be just as good a lover to another man. He broke into a cold sweat. No. Under no circumstances. She can't. She doesn't have the right. But does he have the right himself? Clinton made his way to his lonely apartment, lost in thought. What did all these girls give you? Happiness? Peace of mind? The feeling that you have people who will always support you? No. Then what was it all for? So that you come back to an empty apartment and a cold bed? Or for the regular lunches at restaurants or fast food places? Perhaps, for love? At the mention of a love, Clinton immediately remembered Rose, in her pink robe, with a casual bundle of hair, with a soft, warm smile and a loving gaze. Their passionate nights when the children went on vacation, and they no longer had to be restrained. So what was it all for in the end? To appease your ego, that's what. I don't understand. What's the matter, kitten? Sally stood right by the entrance. Clinton stopped in surprise and stared at her. In the 2 weeks since the family dinner, he hadn't thought of her once. What's the matter? He stupidly asked. Are you ignoring me? What's going on? You don't answer calls, they won't let me in at your workplace, and even your wife won't tell me where you are. You went to see Rose? Clinton started getting angry. Yes. What's the big deal? You said you were divorcing her. But that doesn't mean I'll be with you. Of course you will. You'll marry me. Why on earth would I do that? Because I'm pregnant. And so what? What do I care if you're pregnant? This is your child. Why are you laughing? Sally asked in bewilderment. Are you happy or something? Of course, I could take you for a DNA test, and then part ways with you in disgrace. Clinton finally calmed down from laughter. But I'll save both our time. I can't have children. Several years ago, I had a surgery that resulted in infertility. Clinton fell silent and looked expectantly at his now former lover. In just a couple of minutes, several expressions crossed Sally's face, from triumphant to confused, and then disappointed and angry. You bastard, she exclaimed and turned away on her heels, walking away. Clinton entered his apartment and sat on the couch. What could Sally have told Rose? How did his wife take it? He really wanted to call her, but he was afraid. After waiting a little longer, Clinton dialed Rose's number. "I wanted to apologize for Sally. I didn't think she'd go to you. Why is she looking for you? Did you find someone new and didn't tell her?" From Rose's tone, Clinton realized that she was just kidding. Not taunting, not mocking. And that made it difficult for him. He didn't answer her question, bid farewell, and hung up. On the other end of the line, Rose also hung up the phone and sighed heavily. How difficult it was to handle that carefree voice. Every day, she rehearsed what she would say and how she would react if she ever met Clinton. She kept hoping that her feelings for Clinton would cool down. She even went on a few dates with Elliot. But it never went beyond talking and saying goodbye at the door. Her friend Sharon tried to encourage her as much as possible. Rose tried to be brave, nodded along with Sharon, and said that forgetting Clinton just takes time. Only, it turns out, a lot of time. A whole lot. Early in the morning, the doorbell rang. A courier stood at the doorstep with a bouquet of her favorite flowers. How did Elliot find out? Rose thought with a smile. She thanked the courier and went to put the bouquet in a vase. Inside the bouquet, she found a note. "I know you will never forgive me. I just want to hope that at least these flowers can admire you. Clinton." Rose burst into tears. She immediately wanted to call Clinton and ask him to come back. Hold on. Don't let your guard down. Giving herself such a mental pep talk, Rose went to make herself some coffee. But the smile never left her face all day. Clinton also spent the day feeling happy. Rose didn't return the bouquet or throw it away, he would have noticed it in the trash bins. Bouquets continued to appear at Rose's doorstep every morning for the next 2 weeks. Then, the doorbell rang again. Strange, Rose thought, it's too late for another bouquet. And there was one already today. Maybe Clinton decided to send more? Making a displeased face, Rose opened the door. It wasn't a bouquet this time, it was the mailman. Sign here, he handed Rose a signing form. What is this? A letter. Rose signed. Legal, she read on the envelope. What nonsense is this? Upon opening the envelope, Rose discovered that she was being summoned to court. The reconciliation period for the divorce application had expired. At the same time, Clinton was also examining a similar summons. They both had completely forgotten that Rose had filed for divorce. With her head held high and a carefree expression on her face, Rose entered the courtroom. Clinton was already there, and he wasn't alone. His lawyer sat next to him. Dividing the property, Rose guessed. No wonder he started trying to win me over with bouquets. Well, that won't work. Without looking at her husband again, Rose took a seat on the opposite side of the courtroom. After reading the introductory statement, the judge addressed Rose. Do you confirm your intention to divorce? Rose gave an affirmative answer. The judge then asked the same question to Clinton. I object. He firmly and loudly replied. Rose. Forgive me, you fool. I had time to think it all over and understand that I acted like a brute towards you. I had time too, and my decision hasn't changed. I don't want to live with you anymore. Clinton looked at his wife with a pleading gaze, but she seemed not to notice him. So, he approached her and knelt down. Rose, I'm begging you. Give me one more chance. Every person, even someone like me, deserves at least one small chance. Return to your place, defendant. The judge said sternly. This matter should have been decided earlier, before the court hearing. Nevertheless, Your Honor, the lawyer spoke up, my client has expressed his disagreement, so we will request a postponement. After looking at those gathered before him, the judge announced a 15-minute break. Clinton sat on a chair next to Rose. He fell silent. Rose, I truly realized everything. You mean more to me than anything in the world. I love you. You're the mother of my children. Give me a chance. I'll prove that I don't need anyone else but you. You had such a chance. More than once. Rose said. Rose fell silent. Clinton looked down gloomily, he had nothing else to say. You didn't take advantage of that chance. Now, let the court decide. But even if the judge grants a postponement, don't think it will change my decision. At that moment, the courtroom doors opened. Everyone rise. The court is in session. The judge, scanning the attendees, read the decision, a 3-month postponement for reconciliation. As Rose left the courtroom, her face was stony. Deep down, she was relieved about the postponement and scolded herself for it, but she pretended to be dissatisfied with the ruling. Clinton caught up with her at the car. Rose. Let's come to some resolution. I don't believe you just fell out of love with me so easily. Tell me what I should do to at least allow me to communicate with you. You call me whenever you feel like it. Rose pretended to be annoyed by the conversation. I call you for important matters, but I want to talk, just to chat, find out how your day went, how the kids are doing. Fine. I'll think about it. I'll call tonight if you don't mind, Clinton smiled hopefully. Go ahead and call. Rose got into the car with a dissatisfied expression. Inside, she was dancing with joy. She tried to scold herself again, but it didn't work. The woman remained in a good mood for the rest of the day. In the evening, Sharon came by, she was eager to hear how the court proceedings went. Rose recounted every detail, describing how Clinton pleaded with her to reconsider and give him a chance. I can see, my friend, that you're secretly thrilled. Sharon smiled. Rose gave her a mysterious smile. The doorbell rang. Are you expecting someone? Sharon asked, surprised. No. Clinton was just going to call. Intrigued, Rose went to answer the door. A courier stood on the threshold, handing her a large package and a bouquet of flowers. Inside the package, there was Rose's favorite pizza and a bottle of wine. The bouquet came with a card. I know you're sharing your impressions with your friend right now, so I won't interrupt with my call. I love you. How considerate. Sharon admired. And he knows you so well. He guessed that you'd meet up with me today to share your thoughts about the court hearing. Rose fell asleep with a smile. She had no intention of giving in to Clinton's pressure, but she found it heartwarming that he was so eager to win her back. Clinton also went to bed full of hopeful dreams. He had planned every minute of the day, from flowers to a restaurant. From thoughtful gifts to decisive actions. Rose, how have you been? I've missed you. Shall we go somewhere? Elliot was on the other end of the line. Rose didn't know what to say. His attentions were appealing, but something seemed to be missing. Maybe you don't love him. Sharon concluded when Rose shared her doubts with her. Why not? Rose agreed. Let's go. Then I'll pick you up at 7, is that convenient? It's perfect. Interesting, why doesn't he give me flowers? Rose wondered. Indeed, recalling all their dates, she suddenly realized that he had never once presented her with flowers. Well, I'll try to find out today. Just then, the phone rang again. Rose. How about having dinner tonight? It was Clinton. I'm sorry, but you're a little late, Rose calmly replied. I've already promised this evening to someone else. To whom? Clinton seemed to doubt her. It doesn't matter. Her husband fell silent. Rose also remained silent. Finally, she got tired of waiting. Did you have anything else to say? Rose, do you have another man now? That's none of your business, Clinton. But how can this be? We agreed. About what? About starting over, trying again. I didn't give you a definite answer. I just promised to think about it. Okay, I understand. Have a nice evening. Thank you. After ending the call with Clinton, Rose suddenly lost the desire to have dinner with Elliot. She called Sharon to share her doubts. Don't even think about it, her friend was angry. How will you figure out if you need Clinton or not? You haven't had any other men besides him. Maybe he's not the only golden catch out there. Okay, got it, Rose said in a conciliatory tone, sensing her friend getting worked up. After chatting a bit more, they said their goodbyes. Rose pondered again. Her question now was, how should I dress? To let Elliot know he can expect more than just dinner, or to make it clear that he's just a friend? What, just friends? At my age? Rose scolded herself. Sharon is right, I need to remember that there are other men out there. She chose a dress with off-the-shoulder sleeves, stockings, and high-heeled shoes. To make the outfit less revealing, Rose threw a jacket over her shoulders. Elliot arrived right on time at 7 o'clock. He admired Rose and pulled out a small box from his pocket. Rose felt a jolt of fear. Was he proposing? Was it too soon? But inside the box was a beautiful flower-shaped brooch. Thank you. But I can't accept this gift. It's too expensive, she said. Well, first of all, I can't give a cheap trinket to an elegant woman like you, and secondly, I can afford it, and it doesn't bother me at all. Elliot replied. For the first time, a bouquet of flowers would have been more than enough. Rose casually remarked. Rose, I'm a fool, and I haven't courted women in a long time, so I completely forgot what you're supposed to give them. All the women I know are my business partners. And they might misunderstand flowers. So, after skipping all the times when I should have given flowers, I decided to make amends. Honestly, I don't even remember how to court women. As they stepped out onto the street, got into a taxi, and headed to the restaurant, the conversation naturally shifted to other topics. What happened that made you forget how to court women? Rose asked, seizing the opportunity when dessert was served. I'm afraid you won't like my reason. Elliot replied. Rose decided not to ask anything else to avoid spoiling the impression of the evening. Elliot was so charming and gallant that she decided to figure it out later somehow. Elliot walked Rose to the doors of her apartment. She thought he might hint at a cup of coffee, but instead, he just hugged her and kissed her gently and unintrusively. Sorry for not asking for your permission, I'm sure you wouldn't have allowed it. Thank you for the lovely evening, and see you soon. Elliot gently held Rose's hand in his, looked into her eyes with a soft smile, and left. Stunned, Rose stood at her apartment's door and gazed at the spot where Elliot had been standing just moments ago. She snapped out of it, opened the door, and stepped inside her apartment. Clinton, who had been observing the whole scene at the doors of his former apartment, leaned against the wall in despair. When he found out that his wife had a date, he decided to spy on her and her admirer. He came to her building, went up one floor, and waited. When the other man kissed his wife, Clinton wanted to rush out of his hiding place and confront him with his fists. But he realized just in time that it would only make things worse. He leaned against the wall again. After a while, he heard footsteps going down the stairs. Rose didn't invite him. So, not all hope was lost. Waiting for her to close her apartment door, Clinton dashed out onto the street. He wanted to catch up with Rose's suitor and talk to him man to man. But he was nowhere to be seen. Most likely, the man was waiting for a taxi, which he then used to leave. Well, what can I say, my friend? Sharon swirled her coffee cup in her hand. Intrigue. Your Elliot is strange. He's not mine. Rose objected. But Sharon continued as if she hadn't heard her. Usually, smitten men make their presence known every day. They write lovey-dovey messages, call to check how you're doing, and say some trivial things. And they invite you on a date every day, not like this one, once a week. And flowers. Why did he forget that a girl needs flowers? Yes, that bothers me too. Well, what about Clinton? Does he know that you've been seeing someone else? Yes. He called, asking how it all went. Well, and what did you tell him? I said it was none of his business. And has Elliot called you again? No. He's still strange. Clinton paced around the office. All his thoughts were about Rose's admirer from yesterday. He wanted to take some action, but he didn't know where to start. Clinton, Mr. Joseph is here to see you. The secretary's voice startled Clinton. Invite him in. Mr. Joseph was an old army buddy of Clinton. Unlike Clinton, he chose not to go into business but became a police officer. His appearance was quite timely. Hey, buddy. Clinton opened his arms wide to greet his friend. You have no idea how perfect your timing is. Well, I actually came here for a reason. Joseph seemed a bit flustered. What's the matter? Clinton asked impatiently. I wanted to talk to you as an old friend. My nephew, you see. He recently graduated from university. But he can't find a decent job. He's already switched jobs twice. Why is that? They give him a task to develop a project, and then they fire him, saying he didn't pass the probation period. But the projects are being used anyway. All right, I understand. Let him bring his completed projects, and I'll think about where we can place him. Thank you. I thought you wouldn't mind accepting a small gift from me as a token of appreciation? Joseph took out a bottle of cognac. Clinton smiled and brought out the glasses. After taking a sip, Joseph turned to Clinton. So, what's going on with you? Clinton sighed and nodded toward the bottle, indicating that they should pour some more. Half an hour later, the bottle was half empty, and Joseph knew everything. You're such a fool. How dare you cheat on your wife? It would be one thing if she was some kind of mean person, or one of those modern women who only care about money. But she could have left you back then, 6 years ago when you had that surgery. She could have said she wanted more children, and you wouldn't be able to fulfill that desire. But no. She still stayed with you and loved you. And you. It's not manly at all. Help me. I have a feeling that this Elliot guy is shady. Use your connections to find out more about him. I'll try to help you. That's great. Clinton was relieved. When the bottle was empty, the old friends decided not to stop there and headed to the nearest bar to continue. Later, Rose was awakened by the sound of someone ringing the doorbell. She checked the time and was surprised to see it was past midnight. Who could it be? She approached the door quietly and looked through the peephole. Clinton was standing there, and from the way he leaned on the door and swayed, it was clear he was quite drunk. Why did you come here, and drunk at that? Rose exclaimed in annoyance. Rose, forgive me. It's just a habit. But if you don't let me in, I'll just stay outside. I can't make it home. Clinton slurred. What kind of punishment is this? Rose sighed heavily and opened the door. Clinton stumbled inside, took off his shoes, and with the help of the walls, made his way to the living room. I'll sleep it off and leave, he mumbled, collapsing onto the sofa. How did you get so drunk? Rose brought him a pillow and a blanket. Joseph came. You only get this drunk with him. Well, at least it's rare. But in general, you could do without drinking at all. You can't outdrink those military guys. He probably didn't come home so drunk. Rose looked disapprovingly at the man. But he was asleep, snoring peacefully. Clinton woke up in complete silence and serenity. He felt so good, like never before in the past few months. He was afraid to open his eyes, afraid that the feeling would disappear. After lying still for a while, he realized he had to open his eyes and, to top it all off, get up. His internal organs demanded action. He opened his eyes and smiled. He was in his apartment, in the apartment where his Rose lived. He went to the bathroom, took a shower. After some thought, he headed to the bedroom, where his remaining clothes should be, the ones he didn't take with him. Rose was sleeping peacefully and didn't hear someone walking around her room. Wearing a robe and taking one of the suits he left in the apartment, Clinton walked into the living room. He hung the suit on the back of the chair and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for himself and, of course, for Rose. Rose woke up to the delicious smells coming from the kitchen. At first, she was scared that there was a stranger in the apartment, but who could have keys? Besides, a stranger wouldn't be cooking something delicious in the kitchen. Deciding that one of the kids had come for an impromptu visit to surprise her, Rose, putting on her robe, rushed to the kitchen and was stunned. Clinton was standing by the stove, cooking something and humming to himself. Oh, right. He came yesterday, heavily drunk, and asked to spend the night. Rose remembered, and out loud said, I think you only asked to spend the night, not to take over the kitchen. Clinton turned around, smiling widely, and cheerfully said, Good morning, my love. Decided to treat you to breakfast. Well, when we lived together, you didn't have the time for this. Rose replied sarcastically. Now I have the time. Clinton disregarded her sharp tone and continued smiling. Come on, go take a shower and have breakfast. Rose, not coming up with anything better, obediently went to take a shower. They had a sweet breakfast. The conversation during the meal was strictly neutral. After finishing breakfast, Rose stood up with a plate in her hands, intending to wash the dishes. Clinton had the same idea. They bumped into each other halfway. Taken by surprise, Rose swayed, and the plate slipped from her hands. To prevent herself from falling, she grabbed onto Clinton's shoulder. He deftly caught her, instinctively pulling her closer. Rose knew she needed to break free from his embrace urgently, as everything started to blur in her eyes, and her breath quickened. She tried to push him away by placing both hands on Clinton's shoulders, but her strength failed her. Clinton felt her weak attempts to break free, but he held her even tighter. Then he leaned in and kissed her passionately. His kiss put an end to Rose's resistance, and she completely surrendered to her feelings. Their connection felt like a collision of two charged particles, two universes, two people who hadn't seen each other in a long time but still loved each other. Their kisses were so eager, so demanding, as if they were together for the last time, or for a long-awaited first time. When the explosion of emotions subsided, Rose found herself lying on the dining table, with Clinton's legs wrapped around her, leaning over her. She sprang up as if stung, pushing the man away forcefully. Clinton. How could you? She exclaimed. What could I do? He seemed surprised. Take advantage of my vulnerable state. What vulnerable state? Clinton looked concerned. Did you feel unwell and I misunderstood? I'm sorry. Come on, let me help you to the bedroom. To what bedroom? What are you talking about? So that you could lie down, and I could bring you some water or medicine. What do you have? What do you take? He lifted Rose into his arms and carried her. His reaction amused Rose. How scared he was that instead of helping, he got intimate with her. Meanwhile, Clinton had carried her to the bedroom and laid her gently on the bed, tucking her in carefully. What do you need me to bring you? Nothing. I meant that I'm human too, and sometimes I also want intimacy. And? So, you mean I took advantage of you? Or maybe it was you, he retorted. What do you mean, me? Rose was now the one surprised. Maybe you took advantage of my state? I haven't been with anyone after we broke up. Besides, you've always been desirable to me. So, maybe you deliberately fell onto me? Oh, you. Rose couldn't find the right words in her frustration and, grabbing a pillow, threw it at Clinton. He dodged it and caught Rose in his embrace. She didn't resist but simply froze, waiting to see what would happen next. Deep down, she wanted their morning tenderness to continue, but reason called for the opposite. Clinton didn't hear her silent pleas to stop. He felt her breath quickening and how she softened in his arms. He couldn't resist her compliance and his own desire. Rose couldn't sleep. Instead, memories of this morning kept flashing in her mind, causing alternating sensations of heat and cold. Butterflies fluttered in her stomach, and her face blushed. Clinton held her for a long time and intended to stay forever, but Rose gathered her courage and said, I'm sorry, of course, but whatever happened won't change my decision. I still want to break up with you. Oh, really? I didn't notice. Clinton smirked. Well, you answered that question a little earlier. Yes, I understand. So, you'll sleep with me until you decide it's time to sleep with Elliot, right? Get out of here. Rose wanted to hit him for those words. With that assumption, he compared her to frivolous women. In all the 20 years of their life together, she never even thought about another man. Yes, she was seeing someone else now, but only to avoid thinking about his betrayal and temporarily push him out of her mind. Yet, he decided that she was a calculating woman who used her ex-husband to satisfy her needs so as not to appear too easy to another suitor. Without saying a word, Clinton left. And Rose couldn't find peace all day. When a courier delivered another bouquet of flowers from Clinton in the evening, she simply sent it back. Blocking Clinton's number on her phone, she firmly decided that they had put a beautiful and graceful end to their relationship. The most challenging part remained, getting him out of her mind. When the courier returned the bouquet, Clinton got angry. How touchy we are. But the fact that she couldn't kick me out of the house and immediately found a replacement, that's normal for her? And using me, that's fine too? And now she's offended, huh? Well, let her be. We really have no future, just a divorce. Rose. How do you feel about having dinner? For example, today? Elliot's voice sounded so tender and affectionate that Rose immediately agreed. Elliot's courtship was somewhat strange. He didn't call every day, didn't give flowers, but he was invariably polite, caring, and looked at her with eyes full of admiration. On their last date, he gave her a flower-shaped brooch. Rose thought it was very precious, but after showing it to her friend Sharon, who was an expert in such matters, it turned out that the brooch was insanely expensive. Is he a millionaire? An illegitimate son of an Arab sheik? Or did he simply steal the jewelry? Sharon speculated about Elliot's financial status, one after another, while Rose remained puzzledly silent. We should find out more about him, just in case. But how? Maybe hire a private detective? What if he notices? Well, you can say that you're afraid of his secrecy and don't want to date someone unknown. To avoid provoking Elliot into more decisive actions than just a kiss, Rose chose a modest dress without a neckline. She fastened the gifted brooch as an accessory. And an hour later, she was delighted with that decision. Instead of heading to one of the city restaurants, the car drove out of town and continued further down the highway. Trying not to show her concern, Rose asked, "Where are we going?" "I'm sorry, but I decided it's time for us to get to know each other better. So, we're going to my home." Seeing Rose's frightened look, Elliot added, "I understand it's unexpected and scary for you, but I assure you, there's no need to be afraid of me. And my grandmother is entirely harmless too." Grandmother? Yes. She raised me alone after my parents died. Oh. I didn't know. Of course, you didn't. I'm not one to talk about myself. Not even to a girl I really like. So, you decided not to tell, but to introduce right away? Well, yes. Elliot laughed and kissed Rose's hand. Usually, men introduce their family only if they have serious intentions towards their chosen one, Rose cautiously remarked. You're right, Elliot looked into her eyes intently. I don't want to rush you or force you into anything. I just want you to know that my intentions towards you are very serious, but you have the right to decide the outcome of our relationship yourself. Elliot, I'm a married woman, and I have 2 adult children. I know. You told me everything on the evening of our first meeting. Believe me, I'll wait as long as it takes. They arrived at a small country house. A little girl of about 8 ran out to meet them. Before Rose could wonder and ask who this was, the girl shouted, "Daddy." Elliot picked up the little girl and spun her around. "My princess." A small elderly woman appeared from the door. "Well. Quickly inside. It's cold." They entered the spacious hall, and Elliot put his daughter down and helped Rose take off her coat. Then he started introducing them. This is my grandmother, Teresa, and my daughter, Emma. My name is Rose, nice to meet you. Rose introduced herself. Come on, Rose, let's have dinner. Otherwise, everything will get cold. We've been waiting for you, said the grandmother. For the first time in a long while, Rose felt so good, calm, and at ease. At Elliot's home, she felt like she was at her own place. Teresa turned out to be a cheerful and kind woman, and Emma was a charming child. They immediately found a common language, and the evening passed in a warm and friendly, almost family-like atmosphere. Even Elliot shed his formality and behaved like a boy. Rose felt like she had gone back in time when they used to have dinners, chat, and fool around just like this with Clinton and the kids. Then, they would sit by the fireplace, hugging and gazing at the flames. She felt sad. How could Clinton leave all this for another woman? Was she really that great? Or was he just tired of this life and wanted something else? Something more exciting and diverse than family dinners and mundane conversations? Lost in thought, Rose didn't notice when Teresa said, "Goodbye," and left with Emma. She was startled by Elliot's soft voice. You're not to blame for what happened. What do you mean? You think you're responsible for the divorce, that you didn't give your husband something he needed, so he started looking for it in other women. Believe me, it's not like that. If a man loves you and something is missing, he will definitely talk about it. And if he hasn't said anything, then it means he doesn't need it from you. It means he doesn't see you in his desires. Trust me, as a man. And do you see me in your desires? Rose looked straight into Elliot's eyes. He held her gaze, and then, without saying a word and never taking his eyes off hers, pulled her closer and kissed her. Gradually, their kiss became more passionate and intense. Rose sighed softly and pressed herself even closer to him. Just a little more, and I won't be able to stop, Elliot whispered to her lips. Reason and wild desire battled inside Rose. Finally, reason prevailed. Pulling away from him, she spoke in a slightly hoarse voice. You're right. It's not the right time yet. Please, take me home. Yes, of course. Elliot reluctantly stood up and helped Rose to her feet. They rode home in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. When they reached the door of her apartment, Rose turned to Elliot and said, Give me some time. I don't know what I want anymore and who I need. Desperation was evident in her voice. Elliot hugged her and gently kissed her hair. I understand. I'll wait. But promise me you'll let me know your decision right away. Yes, of course. Rose lifted her head to look at Elliot. He interpreted her gaze in his own way and kissed her again. They stood and kissed for a while longer until they heard the sound of a door opening from above. Startled, Rose giggled and playfully waved her hand, disappearing into her apartment. Elliot walked away from her building with a smile on his lips. She'll be with him. Mr. Joseph is here to see you. The intercom announced. Yes. Let him in. Clinton stood up to greet his friend. After exchanging handshakes and sitting down on the couch, they waited for the secretary to bring them coffee. Regarding your question, Joseph began, Elliot is 40 years old. He was raised by his grandmother since he was 5, as his parents died in a plane crash. He was married, but his wife died during childbirth. He has a daughter, Emma, 8 years old. He owns his own construction business, which is quite successful. After his wife's death, he immersed himself in work and took his company to an international level. He has projects in Europe and Asia. Despite his considerable wealth, he lives modestly. There's a country house where his grandmother and daughter live, and he has an apartment where he stays when he's late at the office. He owns 2 cars, an SUV and a sports car, and that's his entire fleet. Where does he spend his money, then? Clinton was surprised. He keeps it in bank accounts. Clinton leaned back on the couch and pondered. He had hoped that Joseph would dig up some compromising information about Rose's suitor. However, from all angles, it seemed that Elliot was a more worthy candidate for Rose's husband than Clinton himself. He needed to do something urgently. Listen, Clinton turned to Joseph, since my rival is so flawless, I need to artificially tarnish his reputation. You want to play unfairly? Joseph raised an eyebrow. I need to do it. Clinton philosophically remarked and gave his friend a significant look. Joseph smiled. He placed his cup on the coffee table and stood up. I'm sorry, my friend, but I can't help you with that. You acted unfairly towards your wife, and now you want to frame an innocent person just because he might make Rose happy. And why are you doing this? To satisfy your ego? To prove to yourself that you can have any woman, even the one you betrayed? And then what? So you frame this guy, and Rose comes back to you, and then what? Clinton, not expecting such a reproach from his friend, remained silent in surprise. No, Clinton. Count me out of this. But, still, listen to me as your friend, you've already acted like a scoundrel, think about it, realize it, and make the right decision for your future actions. Play fair. Be a man. The morning started splendidly. Rose hadn't even woken up when the doorbell rang. At the doorstep stood Kevin with Emily. With all the excitement, Rose had completely forgotten that the kids were coming today. She happily embraced them. While the kids took off their coats and washed up after the journey, Rose quickly prepared a snack. To be honest, I totally forgot that you were coming, the woman justified herself while bustling in the kitchen. Oh, come on, Mom, it's fine. Kevin reassured her. We should have called to remind you. You're always like this. Oh well. That's a long story. Rose waved her hand, smiling. Do you have someone new in your life? Emily asked. Are you against it? Rose was about to get upset, but her daughter immediately reassured her, no, of course not. I was just worried that you would completely give up and withdraw after Dad's betrayal. Thank goodness, you turned out to be stronger. So, who is he? Let's talk about it in the evening, Rose suggested to her daughter. Right now, I have a lot to do. Mom, I'll have a quick snack and then go with you to the store. Kevin was devouring the sandwiches prepared by Rose. You should rest from the trip, Rose resisted. I've been resting on the train the whole night, I'm fully rested. Kevin smiled and finished his coffee. When are we heading out? I'll get ready now, and then we can go. Rose headed to her room. While she was getting ready for the store, Elliot called. You'll probably laugh at my banality, but I'm calling just to hear your voice, he said softly. Why would I? I would also like to hear your voice. Rose waited for him to continue, but Elliot remained silent too. Finally, he said, Can I see you today? Not today. My kids arrived. Right from early morning. I would have liked to introduce you to them, but you understand, I need to prepare them first, Rose spoke apologetically. No worries. Of course, on the first evening back home, the kids want to spend time with their mother, not some stranger. Then, next time? Yes. Goodbye. Goodbye. Rose suddenly felt sad. After last night, she looked at Elliot in a completely different light. He wasn't just a man who decided to pursue a woman he liked. Elliot was so kind and attentive. He didn't have the same pushiness as Clinton, but his tenderness and caring nature were endearing. Mom, are you ready? Kevin was already waiting at the door. Mom, betrayal cannot be forgiven. If you forgive him, you'll be on the same level as him and all the other women he cheated on you with, Emily said in such a casual and calm tone that Rose realized she was right. But, Emily, he's your father. Rose still tried to find an argument in favor of Clinton. He's our father. For you, he's a husband. A man you trusted, with whom you had children, and with whom you've spent 20 years of your life. As they say, for better or for worse. And now, when you've gone through everything together, achieved so much, and are at the point where you should enjoy life and wait for grandchildren, he chose to spend this carefree period with other women. Emily is right, Mom. Kevin entered the living room and sat on the couch where Rose and Emily were sitting. After dinner, he offered to do the dishes and gave the mother and sister a chance to talk privately. But he still decided to express his opinion. He'll always be our father, that can't be changed. But you shouldn't live with a guy who treated you like that. You simply don't deserve it. Okay, you convinced me. Rose hugged her children, who were sitting on either side of her. All right. Now, onto something positive. Who is he? Emily looked at her mother expectantly. We met at a restaurant where I went with Aunt Sharon. Will you introduce us to him? Well, I don't know. We want to meet him. Okay, then. When? Let's do it tomorrow. Rose, my love, why didn't you tell me that the kids had arrived? Clinton asked. Why should I report that to you? Rose replied with the same tone. Their arrival was a surprise for me too. But you could have called me afterward and let me know. I think if Emily and Kevin wanted you to know about their arrival, they would have called you themselves. Rose, be honest, are you turning them against me? You turned them against yourself. Fine. Then I'll come tomorrow to redeem myself in their eyes. I think you should talk to them first. I think it'll be better if I give them a surprise. Rose was holding the phone and trying to figure out what to do. Clinton called at the moment when she wanted to call Elliot to invite him for dinner. She hesitated because she was thinking whether to invite Elliot alone or along with Teresa and Emma. And it was during this time that Clinton called. Rose came out of her bedroom and went into Emily's room. The girl was still awake. Emily, there's something I need to tell you, Rose began. Dad called. He wants to give you a surprise and come to us tomorrow evening. Have you already invited Elliot? Emily asked anxiously. No, I haven't had the chance yet. Well, then let's give Dad a chance to make an impression. All right. But I won't prepare anything special. Of course. It's a surprise. We're not expecting anyone. Emily winked. In the morning, there was a doorbell. I wonder if I'll have surprises every morning now. Rose grumbled lightly as she got out of bed and went to open the door. I hope they'll be pleasant surprises. Emily was already signing for a magnificent, huge bouquet of roses. Emily. Do you have an admirer? Rose approached her daughter to inhale the scent emanating from the flowers. No. Emily also enjoyed the fragrance. It's the first time I've smelled such amazing roses. Maybe the courier made a mistake? Dad knows you're not a big fan of roses. And I really don't have anyone to give me flowers. Well, let's put them in a vase. If this bouquet isn't for us, at least the scent will linger in the apartment. Rose filled a vase with water, and Emily unwrapped the bouquet from its packaging. A small envelope fell out of the wrapping paper. Inside the envelope was a note. You said you don't like roses. But these are roses from my grandmother's greenhouse. She assured me that you'll love them. Does Grandma have a greenhouse? Emily looked at her mother with amusement. Honestly, I didn't even know. Rose replied. In any case, don't send them back. The scent is amazing. Well, I wasn't planning to. Rose realized her mistake. All three of them were sitting in the living room. Rose was dozing off, Emily was reading a book, and Kevin was playing a game. Then, the doorbell rang. Here we go. Rose thought and headed to the hallway. Hello, my love. Clinton handed her a bouquet and leaned in for a kiss. Rose gently pulled away. He decided not to pay attention to it for now, turned his attention to Emily and Kevin, who also came to the hallway. Then he stepped back, looking at them in bewilderment. What's with the looks? What do you mean? Emily put on a surprised face. What's wrong with our looks? Aren't you expecting me? Didn't your mom warn you? He turned his gaze towards Rose. Well, you said it would be a surprise. I didn't say anything. Rose looked at him mockingly. Well, you could have prepared somehow. Clinton was puzzled, but then he understood.
Ah,
I got it. You quietly prepared everything, and now you'll change and we'll go out for dinner. Of course. You've always played along with me. Great. Let's go. Get ready. Rose, I'll help you set the table. He grabbed her by the arm and led her to the kitchen. Rose freed herself from his grip, stopped, and said, Clinton, I don't understand what you're talking about. Why are you dragging me to the kitchen? What do you mean? To the kitchen. You need to set the table. What table? Why? Rose. We talked about it yesterday. I said I wanted to surprise you and come over. And you were supposed to prepare everything, set the table, dress nicely, get the kids ready. So, you decided to surprise me, and I have to prepare it all? No way, Clinton, but those times are over. I don't want to prepare anything for you. You came to see the kids, well, deal with them yourself. I won't interfere. Rose, why are you acting this way? I'm trying. No, you're not trying. You're just presenting me with a fait accompli and assuming that I'll take care of everything else. And all you have to do is buy flowers, wine. Rose. Dad, it seems like we've already seen enough of you. Kevin said. Rose turned away to suppress her laughter. Yes, Dad. Next time, give us a heads up about your surprises. Then, I can at least cook some pasta. As a festive dinner. Clinton stormed out of the apartment. Rose smiled guiltily. Maybe we were a bit harsh? After all, he is your father. As a father, he's acting like a pig. It was midnight. The children were asleep, but Rose couldn't sleep. She would pick up her phone and then put it back on the nightstand. Finally, she made the call. Elliot, sorry for calling so late. I wasn't sleeping. Somehow, I had a feeling all evening that you would call. Really? I was hesitating all this time. Well, you shouldn't have. I would have waited all night and still looked presentable in the morning. Are you afraid your business partners will be scared off? No. It's you. I wanted to have breakfast together. Don't worry. You'll have enough time to rest. And considering that I refuse to have breakfast but want to have dinner with you, you'll have plenty of time to get ready. Great. Where shall we go? To my place. My kids want to meet you. He may not be a wow, but he's a decent guy. Rose and Kevin were sitting together, discussing Elliot. Emily had gone out to meet her friends. Really? And what bothers you about him? Rose looked interestedly at her son. It's obvious that he cares about you. But, being a tough guy, he's afraid to show his emotions to avoid appearing weak. By the way, about Dad. Kevin, don't you think you and Emily are too strict with him? He didn't betray you. And as a father, he was always wonderful. Maybe you shouldn't treat him that way? Mom. Of course, we should. He destroyed our family. Everything we had. He traded you for his selfishness, making it clear that you weren't that important to him. But he'll always be the person who broke our family apart. So, you think I shouldn't go back to him? Mom. It's only your personal decision, but if I ever cheat on my girlfriend, I wouldn't want her to forgive me. Because forgiving something like that means not respecting oneself. And I don't want a woman who doesn't respect herself. Throughout the following week, Rose worked. Many orders had piled up before Christmas, and she needed to complete them all before the holidays. She didn't want to take money from Clinton, although she knew he would transfer it to her card as usual. The children were preparing for their exams. Elliot understood that she was very busy and didn't insist on going out on dates. He called every evening, and they talked for a long time and said, "Goodbye. Mom, how will we celebrate Christmas?" Well, what's up, dear? I would like to invite my girlfriend. You have a girlfriend? Yes, why? Is something wrong? Kevin asked. No, of course not. You didn't tell me anything. It's just that you have other things on your mind right now. Kevin. You're my child. Come on. Tell me. Who is she? We study together. She's from Belgium. I would like her to spend Christmas with us. Of course. Invite her. I'll prepare a room for her. When is she coming? Really? Thank you, Mom. I'll call her and arrange it. Rose, hi. How are you? Elliot's voice was soft and gentle. I'm doing well. Thanks. Any plans for the holidays? Kevin invited his girlfriend from Belgium. I'm preparing for her arrival. Maybe we could celebrate Christmas together? I'm not sure. Emma and I made a snow hill and a snowman. We decorated a Christmas tree in the yard. Maybe you could all come over? Rose was stunned. Everyone? Well, of course. I think the kids will love it. Don't worry, we have enough rooms. Oh. That would be amazing. Let me talk to the kids. I'll call you back. Great. Good night. Sending you a kiss. And I. Rose. How are you feeling? Clinton's voice sounded joyful, as if nothing had happened. Great. Is that the only reason you're calling? Of course not. Christmas is coming soon, maybe we could celebrate it together, like the old tradition? It won't work, we've already been invited somewhere. To your new man's place? Well, that's none of your business. Rose wanted to hang up, but Clinton quickly added, it's still my business. We're not divorced yet, in case you remember. I don't recall that giving a husband the right to make decisions for his wife. I'm not your property. By the way, speaking of property. Since you've already made up your mind and thought it all through. How about splitting the assets in half? That's for the court to decide. And don't forget, we have children. They are already adults. And by the way, I don't understand, do you want the whole apartment for yourself, to live there with your lover? Unlike your girlfriends, my lover, as you put it, doesn't need a place to live. And anyway, I don't want to discuss these matters over the phone. See you in court. Rose hung up the phone. How quickly Clinton's mood changed when things didn't go as he planned. Why hadn't she noticed it before? And then Rose remembered, that's right. The divorce is in 2 days. And she hasn't even hired a lawyer yet. After thinking for a moment, she decided, whatever happens, happens. I'll manage without a lawyer. The kids are already grown up, they'll figure things out themselves, and I won't disappear. If anything happens, I'll find a small apartment for myself, it will be enough. I don't think Dad will try to deprive us of anything, Kevin mused, glancing at his sister.
Yeah.
Most likely, Mom, he'll just try to make things difficult for you. But that's not fair at all. Emily added. Let's not talk about it. Rose decided not to discuss the topic of the divorce. Her problems with her husband shouldn't affect the children. When is your girlfriend coming? On Saturday. We need to get ready. Our house isn't even decorated. What if Dad sues for the apartment? Well, you guys will still be staying here. Stop worrying about that. Rose sat in a cafe across from the courthouse. Tears stubbornly tried to stream down her cheeks, but she held them back with all her remaining strength. Clinton's lawyer worked flawlessly for his fee. With intelligence and a smile, they evicted her from the apartment she had lovingly and tenderly decorated all these years. She didn't have high hopes that Clinton would leave her the apartment, but she also didn't expect him to evict her so easily. Rose went to court confident that the absence of a lawyer wouldn't affect the judge's decision. After all, the apartment was purchased during the marriage. Rose also worked, creating custom design projects. However, Clinton had arranged it so that all her orders went through his company, and officially, she was considered unemployed. He used this against her in court. All the property they accumulated together over the years, except for personal belongings, remained with Clinton. Of course, my children will continue to live in the same conditions as before. I will do everything so that our divorce won't affect them financially. Well, it shouldn't, in principle. I have been providing for the family all these years, Clinton declared. It turns out she didn't really know who she had been living with all these years. But it was too early to lose heart. She urgently needed to find a new place to live and move her belongings. Then she would have to figure something out with work. Although all her clients went through Clinton's company, nothing would stop them from directly approaching Rose. Encouraged by her plan, Rose was about to call the waiter to ask for the bill when Clinton, along with his lawyer, approached her table. "You didn't wait for the court's decision," he said. "The main thing is that I heard it, and I can receive the document by mail," Rose replied calmly. She had composed herself before his appearance, which clearly frustrated Clinton. He had hoped to catch her off guard, tearful, and ready to give in. "I assume you gave your lover's address for receiving the document?" Clinton couldn't restrain his emotions, unlike Rose. "I'm not going to talk to you in such a tone. And besides, I don't owe any explanations to a third party."
Goodbye.
Rose nodded to her lawyer, left some money on the table, and left the cafe. She returned home, where her children were waiting expectantly. "They gave me 3 days to vacate the premises," Rose said calmly, taking off her boots. "I'll kill him." Kevin rushed to get dressed. "You better find me a decent apartment and help me move." Rose asked him. "Mom. I won't stay with him either." Emily helped her mother take off her coat. "You don't have to. After the holidays, you'll go back to your studies, and on weekends, come to me. And right now, Kevin, focus on finding me a place to live, and you, Emily, help me pack my things. I don't want to spend a minute longer in this place." The things were already packed, but Kevin still hadn't found anything suitable. "I'll stay in a hotel," Rose decided. "Mom. That's expensive." "I have some savings," Rose said, pulling out her wallet and placing a card that Clinton had been transferring money to. Next to it, she placed the keys to the apartment. At that moment, the phone rang. "Hello? How did everything go?" Rose couldn't remember telling Elliot the court date. She looked surprised at the children. "Mom, I'm sorry, it was me who told Elliot. I wanted him to support you." Emily said guiltily. "You thought your support wouldn't be enough for me?" Rose whispered to her daughter and spoke into the phone. "It's okay. I've packed my things, I'll go to a hotel now." "Why?" "It's tough to find rental housing right now, and I need somewhere to stay."
Oh no.
"Cancel the hotel. I'll come pick you up right now and take you to your new place. I know just the right one," Elliot said. Before Rose could respond, the call disconnected. The children stared at her in silence. "He said he found me an apartment and will be here soon," Rose said, puzzled. She smiled, but her thoughts were anxious. What kind of apartment is it? Where is it located? Outside the building, Elliot's car was already waiting. He helped load the belongings into the trunk and opened the car door for Rose. "As I suspected, you're going to your lover." Clinton stood there in an unbuttoned coat, leaning on his car. Judging by his swaying, he was heavily intoxicated. "Rose, don't pay attention. Please, get in." Elliot took Rose by the hand. "Don't touch my wife," Clinton yelled and, tearing himself away from the car, rushed towards them. "She's not your wife," Elliot managed to gently place Rose in the car despite the commotion. "She will always be my wife. She's my woman, and she'll be with me." Clinton lunged at Elliot with his fists, but Elliot easily dodged, subdued the intoxicated man, and knocked him down into the snow. "You're too late," Elliot calmly told him and, releasing Clinton, opened the car door on the driver's side. "Kevin." Were you planning to come with us? Get in. No, Elliot. Plans have changed. I'll have to stay to make sure this, he nodded at his father, doesn't cause any trouble. All right then. Call Mom when things settle down. The drive wasn't long. The apartment was a couple of blocks away. It was a large, modern building with a security gate at the entrance, and a spacious two-level apartment. Rose turned to Elliot. I'm not sure if I can afford to rent such an apartment. You don't need to pay for it. The apartment is mine. I hardly live here, I prefer staying with my grandmother and daughter. We only spend occasional nights here when we come to the city for business. Are you okay with that? It feels a bit uncomfortable. Make yourself at home. You can arrange the apartment as you like, move the furniture around or add anything you want. Thank you. I'm at a loss for words. And you don't need to say anything else. Thank you is more than enough. Elliot paused for a moment, as if trying to say something else, but changed his mind. Well, make yourself comfortable. See you later. Call me if you need anything. Elliot left, and Rose stood there by the suitcases. Then, as if waking up, she dialed her son's number. Kevin reassured her that everything was fine. He helped his father up to the apartment, and Emily put him to bed. After asking about her new home and Elliot, Kevin expressed his joy. See, everything worked out great. Elliot is a fantastic guy. It's just that it's already past midnight, and it's winter, the roads are slippery, and he has a long way to go. What are you implying? Good night, Mom. Rose paused. Indeed, she should have offered Elliot to stay. He's an honorable person and wouldn't allow anything inappropriate. It was too late to call now, he probably already left the city. Rose took off her coat, removed her boots, and at that moment, the doorbell rang. Surprised, she approached the entrance and looked at the intercom screen. Standing behind the door was Elliot. What happened? Rose asked anxiously as she hurriedly opened the door. I suddenly remembered that or rather, you, have almost nothing to eat, Elliot said with embarrassment, so I bought a few things here. Elliot walked into the kitchen and placed 2 large bags on the table. Unload them. Sorry, but now it's your apartment, so you get to decide where everything goes. Rose obediently went to the kitchen. The bags contained various odds and ends. She chuckled. A real man's kit. Although, I thought men drank strong alcohol, not a Pinot Grigio. I just remembered that I'm shopping for a woman in the alcohol department. Thank you. Well then. I should get going. Elliot. He stopped abruptly and looked at Rose hopefully. Stay. Do you want to get back at your husband? I don't want to be alone in an unfamiliar apartment. Elliot mysteriously smiled and took off his coat. They sat in the kitchen, sipping wine, munching on candies, and chatting about everything under the sun. Suddenly, Rose glanced at the clock. Oh my God. It's already 3 in the morning. You have to go to work. Today.
Yeah.
You're right. All right then. Let me make the bed for you. I just don't know where. I didn't get a chance to explore your apartment. I can show you around. Whether it was the wine going to her head or Rose suddenly feeling her loneliness, as she entered the bedroom where Elliot was about to lie down, she took his hand, and as soon as he turned to her, she embraced him and pressed her lips against his. The responsive reaction didn't keep her waiting. Rose woke up with a sense of shame and happiness. She could feel Elliot lying next to her, and she had an unbearable desire to kiss him. Or to run away. What's the big deal? I'm a grown, free woman. I don't need to worry about other people's prejudices. Can't I just feel happy and not think about how I got to this happiness? Determinedly, Rose got up from the bed, put on Elliot's shirt, and headed to the kitchen. She boiled water for coffee, went to freshen up, and after some thought, decided that an omelette would be perfect for breakfast and started cooking. When everything was ready, Rose turned around to go wake Elliot and bumped into his chest. You look so alluring in my shirt that I forgot about the appetizing aroma of coffee and something delicious. He leaned in and kissed her. Let's start with dessert. He sat her on the table, continuing to kiss her. They didn't make it to breakfast quickly. Thank you, everything was simply wonderful. Elliot got up from the table. It's been a long time since my beloved woman cooked breakfast for me. Your beloved woman? Rose looked at him fearfully. Elliot approached her and hugged her. Do you doubt that? Yes. I wouldn't have stayed until morning. My daughter is used to seeing me at breakfast. I'll call and apologize now. Hopefully, when she finds out I was with you, she'll forgive me. Oh, how embarrassing. Rose buried her face in his chest. It's all right. Don't worry. Can I come by after work? Of course. To cook dinner? No. I want to take you somewhere. Okay. Will you call and let me know what time to be ready? Absolutely. Elliot gently kissed Rose on the cheek and left the apartment. Rose called her daughter. Everything was fine with them. Clinton and Kevin were still asleep. How are you? Emily inquired. Everything's great. The apartment is lovely. I haven't seen everything yet, but I'll take care of that now. If you want, you can come over. Okay. I have nothing to do anyway. Rose rushed to clean up the traces of the previous night. Is your agreement to spend Christmas together still valid? They were sitting in a cozy little restaurant. Elliot was holding her hand. Yes. I just want to help with the preparations. Then you need to come early. No problem. I'll tell the kids. How are they? They're fine. A bit disappointed in their father, but I think things will work out. After dinner, Elliot drove her home. Will you stay here? I would love to, but Emma will be upset. She didn't sleep half the night waiting for me. And I didn't even call, I completely lost my head because of you. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. After a short pause, Elliot took Rose's hands and looked into her eyes. Tell me, do you see a future for us in this relationship? I thought we already had one. I mean something more serious. With plans for the future. Elliot, I won't hide it, I feel really good with you. But I hardly know you. I'm scared. I spent 20 years with a man and it turned out I didn't know him at all. Let's not rush. Sure. I told you, I'll wait as long as it takes. Thank you. Rose wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him close. Elliot eagerly responded to her kiss. And couldn't stop himself. You're just driving me crazy, he whispered after an hour. Get ready. Where? Why? We're going to my place. But I don't want to leave you alone after everything that just happened. And I can't stay here either. So, you're coming with me. No objections. Rose sighed heavily and agreed. She didn't want to part with Elliot either. Rose, I've prepared a rough menu here, take a look, maybe something needs to be changed? Teresa joined Rose when she was having her morning coffee. Rose felt embarrassed. Teresa, I think the menu is impeccable. Just take a look anyway. Rose started reading the menu. Teresa. You've incorporated all my fantasies into this menu. But won't it be too much? Elliot said we're having a big gathering, so everything will be just right. I'd still like to help in some way. Don't worry, dear. We still need to buy everything and prepare it all. I hope you'll help me tomorrow? Of course. Elliot will take me home now, and I'll start getting ready for tomorrow so that I can be at your place bright and early. Rose smiled. Grandma, pour me some coffee, please. Elliot entered the kitchen. The old lady bustled around her grandson. While she poured the coffee, Elliot turned to Rose. Why didn't you wake me up? You were sleeping so peacefully. I didn't want to disturb you. But now I don't have time to have a calm breakfast with you. A few minutes later, they were already driving into the city. Upon returning home, Rose called her daughter. Emily replied that everything was fine, and she was preparing for her exams. After discussing the upcoming holidays and Teresa's menu, they agreed that Emily would come to her mother's place. Throughout the day, they went shopping for groceries and outfits, and as the evening approached, tired and hungry, they decided to have dinner at a cafe. How is Dad? Rose asked. He moved in with us. He's behaving as usual. He hopes we'll spend Christmas together. What? Didn't you tell him? I did, but he thinks you instructed us to tell him that so he would chase after you. He doesn't believe that you're needed by Elliot with his 2 kids. In general, he thinks that guys like Elliot prefer younger and less troublesome women. Emily, you won't believe it, but I also think that way. Although Elliot is proving me wrong. Proving you wrong?
Yeah.
He doesn't talk much about our relationship. But with all his actions, he shows how much he needs me. I'm also sure that he's serious about you. He looks at you like that. You think so? Mom. Can't you see anything yourself? Well, yes, if you consider how you look at him with the same gaze. Elliot called. Elliot, I'm glad you called. Are you at work? No, I got off early today. I have an important meeting tomorrow. I wanted to prepare for it at home. You can come over to us. Rose mentioned the cafe where they were sitting with Emily. Kissing Rose, Elliot greeted Emily. I'll have a quick coffee with you and then leave, he said, looking at Rose. Hope you'll join me. No, I think if I go with you, you won't be prepared for the meeting, Rose blushed, lowering her gaze. That's true. But at least I'll go there happy. I've never heard of someone being happy enough just to attend a meeting. Emily laughed. Emily, sometimes that's all it takes. Elliot smiled at her. Well, ladies, I'm off. Otherwise, I'm afraid if I spend a little more time in your company, I'll forget about tomorrow's meeting altogether. Elliot got up, kissed Rose, smiled at Emily, and then picked up the bags and left the cafe. I told you he's crazy about you. Emily said contentedly. Why is it so noticeable? Rose blushed again. Why? It's evident to the naked eye. They laughed. Maybe you'll stay at my place tonight? We can hang out and gossip, Rose looked hopefully at her daughter. Sure. Just need to let Kevin know. They called Kevin, and he wanted to join them. After making arrangements, they headed home. The large kitchen was filled with joy. Emily, Emma, Teresa, and Rose were all busy preparing for Christmas. There was so much to do, marinating the meat, boiling vegetables for salads, baking dessert cakes. Rose and Emily arrived around noon. After settling in, changing clothes, and quickly having lunch, they immediately joined the cooking. Kevin stayed in the city as his girlfriend was coming in the evening, and he planned to pick her up and bring her to the countryside. In the evening, Kevin arrived with a petite, slender girl. Teresa immediately took care of her, leading her to Emma's room to help unpack her things. After the girl changed, Teresa brought her to the living room, where everyone was waiting. The girl didn't look as shy anymore. After half an hour, they all sat at the table and enjoyed the dinner together. Mona talked about herself and her family. Kevin gazed lovingly at her. Emily, Emma, and Rose exchanged amused glances and sly winks. They didn't notice the time pass, and it was already past midnight when an astonished Elliot entered the dining room. I thought you were already asleep. Nobody even came out to greet me. We're coming. Let's go, I'll help you change. Rose jumped up and led Elliot to his room. Sorry, Kevin's girlfriend arrived. She's such a wonderful girl. Sweet and modest. Your grandma quickly made her feel at home. While Rose was talking, Elliot managed to change into his casual clothes and wash his face. He approached her and, cutting her off with a kiss, said, "I've been dreaming about this all day." Was it a tough day? Not really. But tiring. But I'll try to be back for lunch tomorrow. He embraced her, and they walked into the dining room, still holding each other. After finishing dinner, everyone dispersed to their own places. Kevin and Mona found a quiet spot in the living room, while Emily and Emma, claiming fatigue, retreated to their rooms. "You won't get enough sleep tomorrow," Rose gently hinted to him. "Then let me help you because I won't be able to sleep without you." "What?" Rose's eyes widened in surprise. "But what about the kids? And your grandma? What will they think of me?" "Well, last time everyone was asleep, and I hope they assumed I slept in the guest room." Elliot got up from his seat, approached Rose, grabbed a towel, and started drying the dishes she had washed. Then, while she was putting away the clean plates, he wiped the table. He did all of this in complete silence. When the kitchen looked clean and tidy, he approached Rose, hugged her, lifted her into his arms, and kissed her passionately before carrying her away. She tried to break free, but he softly whispered against her lips, not letting go, "Do you want everyone to wake up?" Rose had no choice but to obey him. "Hey, bro. Any plans for the holidays?" Clinton sounded lively over the phone to Joseph. "Maybe we can celebrate together?" "Forgive me, but I'm with my family in the Maldives." "No problem. I'm joining you." "When are you flying?" "We're already here." "Then I'll get tickets for the next flight and come to you." "I'm afraid it won't work out for you. There are no tickets available. We bought them in advance, several months ago." "But you can get a ticket for your best friend, right?" "Sorry, Clinton, but my wife and I decided to celebrate Christmas only with our family this year." An irritated Clinton hung up the phone. He tried calling several venues, but all the tickets were sold out. Frustrated, he grabbed a bottle of whiskey and sat by the window. His mind was blank. Suddenly, his gaze fell on a photo clock that Rose and her little daughter had made by hand. The photo showed a happy and complete family, a mother, father, little daughter, and a slightly younger son. Clinton dropped his head into his hands and burst into tears. They stood in the courtyard with champagne glasses, sparklers, and counted down together. 12. Rose looked at Elliot, who, sensing her gaze, approached and embraced her. 11, 10, 9. She looked at Emily, who stood with Emma. They, in turn, looked back at her and cheerfully waved. 8, 7, 6. Kevin stood there and were already engrossed in kissing Mona, paying no attention to anyone else. Suddenly, he broke away from his beloved and, looking at his mother, smiled encouragingly. 5, 4, 3. "I love you," Elliot whispered to her. "I want you to become my wife." Rose lifted her head to him, looking into his eyes with concern. His warm, tender, and loving gaze conveyed that he was serious and just as nervous as she was. 2, 1. "Hooray." "I agree," whispered Rose. They stood and kissed, not noticing anyone around them. And their large family joyfully shouted, "Merry Christmas," hugged and kissed each other, drank champagne, and celebrated in happiness.
An amazing story, isn't it? Thank you for listening till the end. I sincerely hope that you truly enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate this video. See you in the comments and in new releases.